Hey there, Joseph Varghese here from the New York Power Team. Really excited because in a few days we're going to have our Power Team event Tuesday, April 10th, and we're going to have the one and only Sean Brawley. Sean has spoken in front of our stage twice before, actually, once earlier this year, and so it was a treat having him back. For me personally, one of my passions the past decade has been peak performance, and one of the earliest books I've got in peak performance going back 15 years ago was the inner game of tennis. It changed my life. And Sean and I were just talking about that just a little while ago. But we were talking about one thing I like about Sean, or appreciate about Sean, is that it's about simplifying things. And I know a lot of our audience, you've done work with Tony Robbins and other organizations, and sometimes getting back to basics and going deep is the key toward getting to real performance. And that's one of the things that January, a lot of our audience who attended our January meetup really got from Sean. So Sean, yeah, so we have a few minutes here, and I want to give people a taste of who you are and your background. But so just tell me, like, how did you get started, and briefly, and then we'll talk about what excites you, and maybe an example of a company you work with. But how did you get started?
Well, I got started as a junior tennis player, eventually becoming a pro. So I learned firsthand what does it take to achieve some level of mastery and to perform under pressure. The focus, the discipline, the confidence, the courage it takes. And then my dad died in 1990, and I started a search for meaning that really continues to this day. And things shifted for me, and at just shortly after that, a couple of years after that, I met Tim Galway, and he really opened the door and opened my eyes to just a different way of learning and coaching and attempting, to perform than I had ever been taught. And it turns out that, we all have this just incredible, not just an incredible potential, which we can kind of fantasize about, but we actually have a very powerful, natural, creative intelligence that has been with us since we were born, that because of how our culture is, how we've been educated, we really have lost touch with that source. And so what I really love to do is in all of the work that I do, is to bring people back to that source of the creative intelligence, and as much as possible allow it to guide and really help, whether it's healing us or achieving our goals. It's behind everything we do, Joseph. So I really love to share that.
Earlier, you were talking about collaboration, like really deepening love, which is part of your topic at this event. You talk about a client or that you work with a while back, where you're proud of like the growth that they had. And can you go into that a bit? And
Yeah, I can. I think that I believe I've mastered the area of performance. So while it was very easy, I have a very simple framework and a very proven process for helping people achieve performance. But what was really meaningful in working with this the leadership team of a national restaurant chain was because there were 16 men and one woman, and after a year, these really macho ex-cop, ex-military, Texas-based men, they were sharing very openly, vulnerably, crying, in telling their stories, which of course, Brene Brown is pretty famous now for telling us that if we, allow ourselves to do that, it connects us. So as they became more connected, they achieved something I just wasn't sure could be achieved in the business world, which was they started to really connect, collaborate, share, coordinate, work together, and yet still be incredibly competitive, because they just weren't competitive with each other. They were competitive in like helping each other so that everyone could do well. That was just incredible to be a part of.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm really passionate about that. We talk about that, particularly because in the power team community that we're part of, that I'm part of, we do things with Bass Brigade each year. Our aim is always to bring people together so we can help each other. For 26, 27 years since we started, it's always been our aim, and that's really an alignment of where we're at. And yeah, and how does that apply to people now? So I know you're able to see that also with Pete Carroll at USC, who went on to coach the Seahawks. Like how does that apply to people and particularly our audience? That nature of like collaboration and really engaging one another powerfully.
Well, Joseph, the way I think it applies is this: is I I keep seeing. In the workshops that I facilitate and even attend myself, that people do a lot of work. They do a lot of inner work. They are interested in growth. They're interested in healing. They're interested in achieving their goals. But it just seems like no matter how much we do in the inner game area, people are still stuck. And I think I know why now, because I've really dived in even deeper than a lot of other people have. And I've had, 7 years now training of family systems and how family systems can impact us and literally even change our brains. And there's more and more coming out now about early developmental trauma and how that impacts. And so, it's like we can be stuck in so many different ways. I really like to kind of help people give themselves a break. Like when they learn some of the information I'll be talking about in the meeting, you can take a big sigh of relief, because it's like, you don't have to beat yourself up. It's not because you don't have the willpower. It's not because you don't care. It's not because all the reasons that people give themselves. There are some good sound reasons based on the physiology of the brain and the environment we've been brought up in. And however, there's also several ways in which in the last 3 to 5 years I've really found have been extraordinarily helpful for me in overcoming this and having what I call, having the weather system be better. And going back to that creative intelligence system, it's kind of like we have our own GPS system and we're not turning it on.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited about Tuesday's meeting. I know in January when you first talked about this, the nature of feeling more deeper, particularly our situations and our environments and what we're dealing with emotionally, how that could be a pathway toward greater performance and greater awareness too. So I know you'll talk about that come this Tuesday, and we're really excited to have you. So I know we have just a little time here. We're going to share this with our audience, and if for any of you, April 10th, One Spirit Learning Alliance, 6:45 p.m. Sean will join us afterwards. He'll be there for two to 2.5 hours, and my promise to you, my commitment here is that we'll provide you a ton of value. And this whole journey for all of us is about getting unstuck. Right, and being unstuck doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't have to do workshop after workshop. It's just a matter of really tapping into certain simple strategies and really simplifying life too, for that matter. And Sean and we are all here to help you with that. Come join us April 10th, Tuesday evening, One Spirit Learning Alliance, 6:45 here in New York City. And if you go to nypt.info, there's a link to our meetup site where you get more details about that and other events. Thank you so much, Sean, for making time.
My pleasure.
To join us on Tuesday.
My pleasure, Joseph.
Awesome.